cause the patio stone to move. Now we're ready for the buttress straps. Temporarily remove the strings tied to pegs D and E and F and G. Gently flatten out any kinks or bends and lay the straps across the leveled area and onto the patio stones. The end of the strap should be 2 1/4 inches or 6 centimeters from the outside edge of the patio stones. Insert 3/4 inch long machine bolts into the 4 holes at the ends of the strap from underneath. Now place a diagonal bracket over the 4 bolts, making sure the angled part of the bracket faces away from the center of the pool. Fasten the bracket tightly with 4 nuts using a 7/16 inch socket or open-end wrench. Add another bracket to the other end of the strap and then repeat these steps for all the buttress straps. Place 3/4 inch bolts through the 4 holes nearer the center of the pool, gently lifting the strap and inserting the bolts from the bottom. Place a hold-down plate over the bolt threads, making sure the wide part of the plate faces into the pool. Now place a buttress base plate over the bolts on top of the hold-down plates, with the open side of the base plate facing into the pool. Fasten tightly with 4 nuts. Now place an upright over the buttress base plate and insert 3 3/4 inch bolts through the upright and into the base plate. Fasten on the inside of the base plate with 3 nuts. Later, you will be installing base rails into the uprights, so be careful as you tighten the nuts to ensure you have a 1/16 of an inch or 2 mm gap under the bottom of each upright. Holding a diagonal brace approximately horizontal with the open side down, insert the 4 tabs of the diagonal into the upright. Pull upward on the tabs, and maintaining this upward pressure to keep the tabs in place, swing the other end of the diagonal down over the diagonal bracket. Insert 2 2 1/4 inch bolts through the holes in the diagonal and diagonal bracket and fasten with 2 nuts. Do not over-tighten these nuts. They only need to be snug enough to ensure a secure fit. Now complete the installation of all the other buttress verticals and diagonals. Your center strap will cross the center peg. Dig this up, fill in the hole, and tamp down firmly. Replace the strings between pegs D and E and F and G. Use the strings to make sure the buttress uprights are all aligned with each other. The string should barely touch the inside edge of each vertical. If you have more than one vertical on each side, find the curved buttress rails, which are color-coded or identified by part number specifically for your pool size. For all pool sizes, except the 12 by 18, you have been supplied resin rail supports. Slide a rail support into the middle of each buttress rail. The tall bracket of the rail support slides into the groove of the buttress rail. Now insert a buttress rail with rail support installed between each set of uprights. Notice that the closed square side of the rail, not the grooved side, slides into the notch at each buttress upright. Standing on the end of the hold-down plates, fill all the voids on the outside edge of the plate with soil, sand, or crushed limestone. Be sure the end of the hold-down plate lies flat on the ground. Filling these voids will prevent low spots forming around the hold-down plates when the pool is filled with water. Place a sheet of plastic approximately 15 by 15 inches or 36 by 36 centimeters over the ends of the hold-down plates. You can keep this in place with small pieces of duct tape. Now remove all the strings and pegs in preparation for adding the remaining base rails and base plates, but leave the wooden stakes in place for now. Locate the transition rails. These are color-coded or identified by part number specifically for your pool size. The transition rails are the first rails that attach to the buttress verticals on the round ends of the pool. Pry the notched end of these rails open slightly with a screwdriver. Again, slide the closed square end of the rail into the notch in the vertical with the grooved side up. The other end of the transition rail, add a base plate with the wide side of the plate facing away from the pool. Insert an end rail into the other side of the plate. These rails are identified by part number. Leave a 1/2 inch or 13 mm gap between the rails. Cut several short pieces of wood and place them temporarily between the rails to maintain this gap. When you have all the base rails and base plates installed, attach a piece of string to one of the end stakes. Measure and mark the string at the length of dimension R in your diagram, which is 90 inches or 229 centimeters in our case. Use the string to check that the face of each base plate is the same distance from the stakes. Using a square or round patio stone at least 12 inches or 30 centimeters wide centered over each base plate, mark the soil. Now remove the base rail at the round end of the pool from the end verticals and set it aside. Excavate the areas you've marked to a depth of 3 inches or 8 centimeters. Fill the bottom with 1 inch or 25 millimeters of crushed limestone, slightly dampened and tamped down tightly. Place a patio stone on top of the limestone, ensuring it's level and even with the surrounding soil. Fill the area around the patio stone and tamp down tightly. As an alternative, you can fill these trenches completely with crushed limestone, tightly tamped, provided it's level and even with the surrounding soil. Finally, check between each patio stone or limestone pad for the 2x4 and carpenter's level or your surveyor's transit to ensure all the stones are level with each other. Now replace the bottom rail, again checking the distance to the face of each base plate. Remove the wooden stakes and fill the holes with soil, tamping it down tightly. If you were using sand for your pool bottom, spread enough sand over the area to cover the bottom to a depth of about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, but don't bring it right up to the base rails at this time. You can use 1 inch or 1.5 inch, 25 or 38 millimeter thick styrofoam sheets for a pool bottom. Spread the sheets over the area inside the base rails. Slide the styrofoam under the base rails and use the curve of the rails to mark the sheets for cutting. The styrofoam can be cut with an X-Acto knife or small handsaw. Number the sheets so you can reassemble them later and remove them until the pool wall is installed.